Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, Debunking Mythology. In Sattology means science of truth from the root word Sat, or Sat also means eternal. Truth is eternal. And opposite of that is mythology, which means coming from the root word myth, which means a fake lie or imagination. So mythology destroys our identity because just a regular academics call everything ancient history as mythology, whereas most of the ancient cultures are put under the carpet, and only the medieval or the modern history is being taught as a real history. Now, there is an advantage of discussing the current history, and but if the history doesn't have good lessons, then that history doesn't build your identity. So even the history has to be qualified. What is good lessons? You're not going to teach somebody's history if they've engaged in illegal activities or killing people, millions of people. So it's good to know, but not you cannot go deep into that because you won't learn anything good from that. So our Vedas say, Mahabharata says that we should teach our children the history which builds their character and their strong identity towards dharma. I have a very, very special guest, Dr. ML Raja. Let us welcome him. Namaskar, Dr. Raja. So, Dr. Raja, the question is sometimes we have so many shows coming on this topic, history. Now, this history topics have to become part of the regular course curriculum because otherwise they won't make an impact on the population. Building their identity, self-confidence. Self-confidence. Most of the Americans are self-confident because of their victories in World War I, World War II. That's the latest they have. But most of the Native Americans have no confidence because they are the ones who are on the receiving end. So how important is the right history being taught to the people?
Actually, you have answered well, but the identity and the lesson, that is most important thing. If you read Ardha Shastra of Chanakya, in that he mentioned that the king and the prince should every day read Purana. Purana means history, that chronology aspect. Why? Because unless you read history, unless you know how in the past our ancestors lived, our ancestors reacted to certain situation, and what are all the failures, what are all the achievements, what thing made them to achieve, what thing made them to get defeated. So from that only they can learn lesson. First thing, they should learn lesson. So there's from the past only you can create your future. Without past, there won't be any future. So that is for your better future. You should know what is past, where we have gone wrong, how to rectify it in the future. That thing important thing. Second thing is what is your identity. That is most important thing. You are stressed in the last session also that identity, your nation, your culture, your tradition, your heritage. Only if you know that you can follow and you can transmit to your progeny. Unless your culture is transmitted to your progeny, that needs identity and your oneness with the culture, your whole nation will last. For example, Greek before 2000 years before, that Greek is not today's Greece. Egypt is not today's, Egypt is not today's Egypt. Iran, Iraq, Mesopotamia, nothing is there. Because once you lost the culture, you lost everything. Israel, though they lost their geographical area, their government, but they scattered all over the world, but they maintained their identity. They are maintained their history. So even after 2000 years, if they got a land, they again become a nation with the same culture, with the same tradition, everything. So Israel lesson you should understand. So unless your culture is maintained, you cannot continue as the same nation, as the same society. So to maintain that culture, you should know your identity and you should pass on that identity to your progeny. In that way, history is important and correct history should be treated. See, the Shastra, Sanakya told, if you want to conquer for a nation, you first change their language and change their culture. That will be easy way. Without even getting an army invaded, you can capture such a lands. Like that Artha Shastra told. So we should know our own history. That gives your identity, that gives our lesson, that gives our progeny also to maintain in the same culture. That much is important. So Indian history, correct history should taught. What you are told is correct. Other nations will not correct. If my house is not order, it is my duty to make it in order. So Indian government, Indian people should make their history, correct history should taught to their students, to their youngsters, to their next generation in the correct way. That is our duty only. Thank you, Ji.
No, great answer. I think this is the need of the hour. So whatever the course materials have to be different from 8 to 18 age group, and that's where the history is beginning starts. They start actually getting into the thing because they start understanding. So you can start your presentation. I think we're discussing the part 3 of the
Yes.
same topics that we're discussing, and then part 1 and part 2 will be live shortly for people to watch.
Shall I start, Ji?
Yes, Dr. Raja, please.
Vanakkam, namaskar. My thanks, heartfelt thanks to Sri Aditya Ji and the volunteers of Sattology, and also the eminent professors, scholars, and students from various parts of United States of America, and also eminent persons who are listening this lesson. This is part 3 of the consequent lecture on distortions and misconceptions on Indian history and chronology. I have already discussed 2 parts. In this, the implausible Aryan invasion theory and its date at 1500 BCE is again a wrong, baseless conjecture with evil and malevolent motive that we are going to discuss. In the part 1, I have dealt how, when, with what motive the distortions in Indian history and chronology was carried out, and the persons who played the conspiratorial role in it, I have discussed in detail. In the second part, since the whole and single base of this conjecture is Megasthenes, Indica, and other Greek classical literature on India. So I want to analyze whether they are credible, they are worth, they are having history actually. So after my analysis, it was proved that these texts are incredible, worthless, and conflicting, self-conflicting, with full of falsehood as shown by the internal evidence found within the text itself, not outside. The text itself contradicting, and so they are worthless. So that we have detailed in the second part. Now in this third part, how and on what basis the date of the implausible and conjectured Aryan invasion theory, how it is assumed, and it was how it is fixed Aryan invasion into India at 5500 BCE. What made them to derive that date in a wrong way? That we have to see. We have seen that so far I have explained, no Indian texts or inscriptions, archaeological excavations, or numismatic studies, coin studies, gave any evidence for Alexander's arrival at the Indians' western border. There is no evidence. William Jones and Colonel Francis Wilford mentioned the following text as proof. But it is also baseless and wrong, baseless presumption only. We have seen that already. I explained the Somadeva's poem and the coronation of Chandragupta Maurya, Somabhatta's Brihat Khada and Mudra Rakshasa. There was not even a single evidence for Alexander's name or any other Greek name. So it is entirely based on Megasthenes, Indica, and Greek classical literature. No other evidence is there. So international scholar and asking further evidence, because they are not taking it. It is not acceptable. Just in one text, literary evidence. It may be written later period also. That is their question. So these scholars, the so-called Orientalists, they have a severe and uncontrollable pressure from the international community, and they have had experienced the worst embarrassment. So they have to find out at least one evidence beyond this Megasthenes, Indica, and other Greek literature. So they tried. James Prinsep, he was an English officer, was appointed in the mint, coin mint, and also as a master. In his young days itself, he suffered some infection, so his eyesight was not good. That is his background. But he is analyzing all the inscriptions. His eyesight has gone even in the childhood. So he came to India in 1819 and he returned just 19 years in India, 1838 to Britain because of bad health. And he worked as a mint person or as a master like that. And he was made an secretary to Asiatic Society of Bengal in 1832. So during that time, he would have come across many large collection of Indian coins and studied them. And he is the person, though he suffered poor eyesight even since childhood, he tried to decipher the inscriptions and rock edicts found in India. With poor eyesight, he wanted to decipher the inscriptions. These edicts, rock edicts found various places in the northern Bharat, India, mentioned a king by name Devanam Priyadasi. So James Prinsep initially thought the name denotes a Sri Lankan king. There was a Sri Lankan king by name Devanam Priyadasi. So it denotes that name, but he couldn't understand why a Sri Lankan king has inscribed many rock edicts in northern Bharat, northern India. That he couldn't understand. But then came George Turnover. Both are period are same, almost same, 1799 to 1840, and he is 1843. He is a British officer in Ceylon civil service, Sri Lankan civil service. Usually, he only translated Mahavamsa in the year 1837, and he, along with James Prinsep and Captain Edward Smith, began to decipher the inscriptions of the king Ashoka, the first discovered pillar. Here, king's name is mentioned as Devanam Priyadasi. Turnover found in Deepavamsa. Deepavamsa, there are Buddhist chronicles of Sri Lanka. Three things are there: Mahavamsa, Deepavamsa, and Sulavamsa. In the Deepavamsa, there is a title of Devanam Priyadasi, and it denotes the king Ashoka. Though it denotes a Sri Lankan king by the same name, it also denotes the king Ashoka. I have verified it is correct. So based on that, these people, James Prinsep and Turnover and Captain Edward Smith, they fixed that what are all the rock edicts with the name Devanam Priyadasi, it should be King Ashoka of Maurya dynasty and Magadha kingdom. So from that they found out. Even there is a rock inscription at one rock inscription mentioned Devanam Priyadasi Ashoka. And so it is correct. And inscriptions of Ashoka found so far found many inscriptions, more than 30 inscriptions. There are 4 types: rock edicts, pillar edicts, minor rock and minor pillar inscriptions are there. These are the finding places. Important is Girnar, Kalsi, and Delhi, like that. In Mysore, Karnataka state, Calcutta, in various places. Even in adjacent area of India also, in the northwestern part of India, and beyond that also. That is within Pakistan. There are Sanchi and Saranathi inscriptions, minor pillar inscriptions are there. All these inscriptions are narrated in the book Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum, Volume 1. It is published by Archaeological Survey of India, government publication. But the author is a foreign author, E. Hulse. He is an epigraphist to the government of Madras, retired. It was published in 1924. Though Princess and Turnover identified all these inscriptions in 1820, it was published 100 years later only. These English officers who have deciphered, edited, and copied, all are English officers only. No person from India. Why I am saying, I will tell later. So you can, James Prinsep, Captain Lang, Wilson, H.S. Wilson, Norris, everybody, Alexander Cunningham, Buckler, Burgess, everybody is English officer only. That we should keep in mind. And inference got from these Ashoka inscription is first the king who issued. That is Ashoka. Ashoka of Maurya of Magadha dynasty. The Devanam edition is definitely Ashoka. Because one of the inscription, Musky inscription, it mentioned Ashoka name itself. And he, all these inscriptions mentioned that he is a Buddhist and his capital is Padaliputra and Magadha and Kalinga war, everything mentioned. So it is definitely that. The historical analysis of India, chronology of India, 3 rock edicts are important. That is 2nd, 5th and 13th rock edict. In Girnar and Kalsi and other thing, they will arrange it in the same way. 2nd, 3rd, like that. 13, 14 rock edicts are there in each place. And the 2nd rock edict, what it mentions is, everywhere in the kingdom of Devanam Priyadarsin and at the borders, such as Soda, that is Chola kingdom in Tamil Nadu, Pandya kingdom in Tamil Nadu, Satyapuda, Kerala, that is Kerala, Tamraparni usually denotes Sri Lanka, and Yona king. Yona king name Antiocha. His Yona king name is Antiocha, and the kingdoms nearer to Antiocha. In this border area, 2 kinds of medical treatment Ashoka started. That is one for people, one for animals. He loved that much animals also. That we should understand. If there is no herbs for treatment, it will be sent to them and it should be planted. In the same way, for the people to use and the animals to use, roots and fruits will be sent and they will be planted. Further, Ashoka see to that trees were planted on the side of the roads and the wells were dug on the side of the road, so that the people, traveling people, will not suffer from thirst, and also they should have shadow, like that. With that idea, he even in the border kingdom he started. In the 5th rock edict, this is the 5th rock edict. I thank ASI. Mahamatra, that is Mahamatra of morality, that is Dharma Adhikari, government officers to maintain Dharma. They were appointed by Ashoka. They will establish morality, welfare, and happiness of all sects. And among Yavana, Cambodia, Gandhara, Rathika, and Patinika, and other countries in the western border. In the western border, all these things, Mahamatra were employed, and they are occupied with the Brahmins. That we should understand. So Brahmins also respected. So that is an important point. And the 13th rock edict is an important thing. And he mentioned Ashoka conquest morally, not with force, morally. And repeatedly he conquest among all borders at 600 yojana, where Yona king Antiocha. And nearer to him, the other 4 kings named Tulamaya. He may be Turamaya or Turamaya. He is Antiocha or Antiocha. In some inscriptions mentioned Antiocha, some inscriptions mentioned as Antiocha. So I have given all the versions. Andekini or Andikini, Maka or Maga, and Alikya Sudala or Alikya Sudara. And in the south, 600 yojana, not only these things, it to the south also. I have already mentioned Chola, Pandya, Tamaraparni, that is Sri Lanka, Yona, Cambodia. These are all the places. Andhra and Padala, Boja. All these places, he conquered morally. Ashoka mentioned that I have conquered all these places. This is an important thing, 13th rock edict. So what these British officers, including Princep and other people, what they come to a conclusion, how they assume means, all these names are Antiocha, Tulamaya, Andekini, Maka, Alikya Sodala are Greek kings. That is the thing, their assumption. For example, Antiocha, they thought it is Antiochus too, Antiochus. Antiocha, you see, how it pronounced, it is Antiochus. How it is related, not related. 2 of Syria, his period, regnal period. And Turamaya or Tulamaya or Tulamaya, that is Ptolemy, 2 of Egypt. And Antikini or Andekini, Antigonus. So definitely different, Antigonus. This is Antikini of Macedonia, that is Greek. And Maka or Magas. This is slightly okay, we can accept. Of Cyrene, but it is Libya. western to Egypt, even western border of the Egypt, Libya. And Alike Sodara, that is Alexander of Epirus. They don't know which Alexander, Alexander of Corinth. Both they are giving, either this person or that person. So this Epirus, Corinth, and Macedonia are parts of Greece. So these are all the persons, Lason and also Belloc assumed all these things. It is mentioned in Corpus Inscriptionum Indicarum, volume 1 at page 48. Whether it is acceptable, whether it is okay, is there is any base in it, that we have to analyze. For example, this Syria king, this is the Sindhu river. So this is from this Seleucus Nicator ruled. So this area, this may be Ashoka's border. But this Egypt and this Libya, how much distance from Padaliputra you can see. And this is Asia Minor, this and Greece here. How much distance? Is it possible for Ashoka to give this herbal and also root and also to dig wells and to plant trees on all this area? 7,500 kilometers. This time, this may be 200, 300 kilometers. This much area, whether Ashoka, is it possible? He ruled only 36 or 37 years. Definitely not possible. And how can he send his Mahamatra, the government officer, up to this area? How much officers are there? How can he control that much area? Some 2,300, as per their assumption. There is no transport mechanism, there is no communication, nothing is there. Roads are not there. How can he control? But in spite of that, they told that it is correct. So that we should understand. First thing, what are all the defects in that assumption? Antiochus definitely doesn't phonetically similar to Antiochus. Definitely different. Andikini, that is Antigonus, that is also not similar. Tulamaya Ptolemy, that is also not similar. Maka, only thing they can accept little bit, but it is Libya. Libya is here, this much distance. So that is also not acceptable. And Alikia Sodala Alexander, that is also not acceptable phonetically. So phonetically, entirely not acceptable. And they are arguing that the distance is 600 yojana. So it may be 6,000 kilometers, 7,000 kilometers. One yojana is 12 kilometers like that. But this calculation differs from time to time. For example, Vishnu Purana mentioned from north to south, the distance of Bharat, India is 1,000 yojana. So that is 1,000 yojana. This is 600 means less than India's north-south distance only. That is only 2/3. So that is also not acceptable. And further thing is this 600 yojana not only northwest border, it includes south also. He mentioned northwest and south, 5 Yavana kingdom, Chola, Pandya, Sri Lanka also, and Cambodia, and also Andhra, Bhoja, all these areas only 600 yojana. So that is not acceptable. Fine. And as mentioned in rock edit, I have already shown medical treatment for animals and things, and also planting trees on the road, digging wells. That are not possible to such a huge distance by a king sitting here in the 2,300 years before, as their date. There is no communication, there is no road, nothing is there. How can he control all these things? At the same time, if the king's 5 kingdoms are nearer, it is in this, if this in this place, that is Gandhara and Cambodia he mentioned, maybe if it is here, it is possible for him, Ashoka, to maintain. That is also we should understand. And also as mentioned in rock edit, Mahamatra cannot be sent to that much distance. If it is here, definitely he can control, Ashoka can control this area. His border area is that, like that, he can control here, not here, up to this. So that we should understand. So it is all defective. Further, Ashoka mentioned that he morally conquered all these things, all these kingdoms, and he made them to live in a dharmic, peaceful harmony, coexistence. Ashoka mentioned. But if you read the post-Alexandrian period of these lands, these 5 Greek kingdoms ruled by this Antiochus and Antigonus and Ptolemy and Megas, and others, after the sudden demise of Alexander of Macedonia, were at constant internal power conflicts. Some kings were poisoned and killed, some in the war killed. There is continuous war and also conspiracy and treacherous tactics are employed. There are complete disharmony and there is no peace. Everybody is scared of their life, even no assurance for life. So there is no peace. So Ashoka's edicts says there is morally they are good, peace, harmony with happiness and affectionate, even to the animals are there. But this history totally contradicts King Ashoka's edict. So that also we should understand. Ashoka inscription showed clearly Gandhara and Kamboja are separate kingdoms in northwestern part. So this Gandhara and Kamboja are there here. But if you read post-Alexandrian period, these areas are controlled by Seleucus Nicator and followed by his children, sons Antiochus 1 and 2 like that. So there is no Gandhara, there is no Kamboja kingdom are there. Post-Alexandrian period, no Greek literature mentioned Gandhara and Kamboja. So that also contradicts this assumption of 5 Yavana kings or 5 Greek kings. Further thing is, the most important thing, and the Mudra Rakshasa, I got narrated in the last thing. There is a Parasika Rajya, that is Parasika kingdom, and it was ruled by King Meghanada. It mentions when after the coronation of Chandragupta Maurya, there is a conflict to oust Chandragupta Maurya from the power by the Rakshasa, the previous king's chief minister, and King Meghanada is helping him, Rakshasa. So he was mentioned as Parasika Raj king. So in Alexander of Macedonia, when he what we read from Greek classical texts, even before Chandragupta Maurya becoming king, it was captured. This area, Parasika area, that is Iran. Darius was defeated by Alexander, and Alexander became the king of the Iran. And after that, Seleucus Nicator and Antiochus, his one son, and Antiochus 2, 3, they are ruling. So this Mudra Rakshasa mentioned definitely King Meghanada is the king during Chandragupta period. If there is no Alexander, there is no Seleucus Nicator ruling Iran at the time of Chandragupta Maurya. How can Antiochus become king? Because he is the grandson of Seleucus Nicator. He couldn't be there. So that itself contradicts their assumption, their derivation that Antiochus means, that is Antiocha means Antiochus. That is wrong. And all these Greek names, rulers of names are Antiochus 1, 2, 3, Ptolemy 1, 2, 3, Antigonus 1, 2, 3, like that. So it is all titles, not proper name for Greek rulers. So that, with that we cannot take. And this I have explained already, how the period of Alexander of Macedonia was fixed around 356 to 323 BCE. And these 5 Greek rulers period around 250 BCE, because I have shown this is their period. So this period, how they fixed it? Already I have a doubt, because before 46 BCE, the calendar system of Greek and Rome was very much defective. Because of that only Julius Caesar did some correction in 46 BCE, because it is a defective calendar. And in 46 BCE, the number of days for an year is 445 days. 80 days more than normal days of an year, nearly 80 days. So that already the calendar is itself wrong. With the wrong calendar, how can they can derive correctly the date of Alexander or these 5 Greek rulers? So that itself is defective. And from 500 Common Era to 1500 Common Era, 1000 years Europe went into dark period. So there also, again the calendar system defective. That's why Gregorian corrected in 1582 and 10 days were dropped. Thursday 4th October 1582 was followed by Friday 15th October 1582. In between, during this dark period or before Julius Caesar, how many times changed, no data are available. So this calendar system is defective. So based on the wrong calendar system, they could not fix the exact date of Alexander or these 5 Greek rulers. So based on that, we cannot fix Chandragupta Maurya or the date of Ashoka. So that itself is wrong. And the basis for this assumption, what is the base? How they mean Yona king into 5 Greek kings? How they derive that? It is again based on phonetic similarity. See how the Sanskrit word Yavana or Pali word Yona means Greek. How these people conjectured it. We have to study Greek history. In Greek history, there are 4 different groups of people lived around Greek between 1000 to 500 BC. They are Dorians, Ionians, Aeolians, Achaeans. And the dialects were, their language was Dorian, Aeolian, Attic, and Ionian. All were later commonly called as Hellenic. That is the original name for Greek. These Ionians, they lived on the western sea coast of Turkey. That is this area. They lived, this is Greek, and these Ionians lived on the western coast of Turkey. Just very small area, 150 to 75 kilometer area. Very minimal population. Okay. So they are known as Ionians. And their other 3 lived in Greek, and their very minimal population with a minimal land. They are known as Ionians. And these Westerners, in the past 200 years, they conjectured without any basis that Yavana and Yona is equal to Ionian. Like Sandrakotas is equal to Chandragupta Maurya. In the same way, phonetically, there is nothing. Everywhere they assume phonetical similarity. Without base, they assume things and write history. That is their duty. So, regular routine, their duty to degrade or damage Indian historical chronology and antiquity. They use this phonetic similarity, which is not there. So, Yavana and Yona is equal to Ionian. So, wherever Yona means, it is Ionian. So, Ionians are Greeks, or all are 5 Greeks. That is their thing. Again, a playing card construction only. Nothing more than that. So, if Yavana are not Greek, then who are they? That I have to explain now. I am mentioning that Yavana are not Greek, or Yona doesn't mean denote Greek. Then who are they? That I should. So then only it is acceptable. There is India's strong, irrefutable, absolute, and concrete evidence for this. The Purana, Itikasa, grammar, and Kavya texts and inscriptions of India refute all these conjectures, that is Yavana is Greek, and prove these assumptions of phonetic similarity is without any sense, but it has an ulterior selfish cunning motive that India's texts prove and inscriptions prove. Purana, especially Sri Vishnu, Agni Purana, Srimad Bhagavata, Brahmanda, Brahma, Garuda, Linga, Matsaya, Bhatma, Skanda, and Harivamsa Purana mentioned definite details of Yavana. This much Purana mentioned about Yavana. That we should understand. In the same way, all the 2 Itikasa mentioned Yavana. Many inscriptions are there on for Yavana. So Purana, all these Purana clearly narrate 3 important things on Yavana. That Yavana people are located at the western part of India. Western part, western border. So it is within India, they are living on the western portion of India. Their contemporariness with King Sagara, who is a descendant of King Harichandra of Ikshvaku dynasty, much ancient to Sri Rama period itself. And Kala Yavana was a king of that Kala Yavana Rajya, that is kingdom, which is located in the northwest part of India, and he was contemporary to Sri Krishna himself. And Goda Deepika, an astronomical text, in the 3rd Adhyaya, 84th to 89th sloka, that mentioned the nation India has 9 divisions, and in its eastern part live Kirata, and in its western part Yavana, and Dvija, other people, that is Brahmana, Sudra, that they people live in middle part. So Yavana lived in the western portion of India. Goda Deepika and Purana mentioned. I will just, I am not need not show all the Purana sloka, just to ascertain it is correct. I will show only one sloka from one Purana. Vishnu Purana in the 2nd section, 3rd Adhyaya, from 1 to 9 sloka. This is the first sloka of that Adhyaya. What is Bharat? Which one we call India? That it mentioned. Uttaram yat samudrasya. That is north to Samudra, ocean. Himadre saiva dakshinam. That is including Himalaya, south to Himalaya and Himalaya. Varsham tad Bharatam nama. That land is that Varsham, that nation is known as Bharatam. That name of that nation is Bharatam. Bharati yatra santatihi. The progeny of that nation, they are known as Bharati. So Bharatam means as a name of Saraswati Mata for knowledge, jnana. So that is why we got the name Bharata. And what are the people and how much is the extension of the India? In the 8th and 9th sloka it mentions Yojananam Sahasram tu. That is 1000 Yojana. Deepo Ayam Dakshina Uttarat, from south to north, from Kanyakumari to Himalaya, the total length of the Bharat is 1000 Yojana. So it itself 1000 Yojana means, how can Ashoka's kingdom 600 Yojana will go to Libya? That is not possible. And what is most important is Purve Krata Yasyante. That is Purve, eastern part is occupied by, lived by Kirata, that people. Passime Yavanaha Stitaha. Passime is western part of western portion of India. Yavanaha Stitaha. Yavana were living. Brahmanaha Kshatriya Vaishya Madhye Sudrascha Bhagasaya. In the middle part, all these people live. That is the thing. So Vishnu Purana and many Purana mentioned that Yavana are Indian people. They lived within India and the western portion of India. That is the thing. Strongly they mention. And in the section 3 Adhyaya, I already explained that King Sakara, he came in the lineage of Ikshvaku dynasty, that is Rama dynasty. King Harichandra belongs to the dynasty. After King Harichandra, King Sagara came, Bhagiratha and Sagara. And he defeated Haihyas, who defeated his father. So to take a revenge, he defeated Haihyas. But at the virgin of eliminating Yavana, Rishi Vashishta interfered, and so King Sagara left Yavana to live. So Yavana were there in India even before Ramayana period. That we should understand. And section 5, Adhyaya 23, these are all Vishnu Purana. Kala Yavana, the son of Yavaneswara, his father name itself Yavaneswara. He ruled north and western part of India, and he was burnt alive by King Musukunda in a cave, where Musukunda was sleeping for years together. When King Kalayavana attempted to attack Sri Krishna. That is there. Even Srimad Bhagavatam and many Purana detail this. So Yavana were contemporary to Mahabharata period. Yavana lived in India even before Ramayana period. That we should understand. And Matsya Purana and Mahabharata. Yavana are progeny of whom? That explained. Matsya Purana, this 34th, 30th sloka, Yadost Yatava Jata, from Yadu king, Yadava king. Turvasur Yavanaga Sutaha, totally finished. From Turvasu, that king, Yavana, they are the sons of progeny of Turvasu. Durhyocha Sudha Bhoja, Anost Milecha. Milecha is not foreigner. That also it's a misunderstanding. They are the sons of Anu, that king Anu. Mahabharata, in the same way, Adi Parva, in this sloka in Adhyaya, same thing, Yadost Yatava Jataha, Turvosar Yavanaga Smiritaha. So that means Yavana are the progeny of Turvasu. Who is Turvasu? Turvasu was the son of Yayati and Devayani. Who is Yayati? Yayati is the son of Ayus Rishi and grandson of Pururvas Maharishi. So Yavana has the Gotra Pururvas Maharishi. How can they become Greek? His grandmother and mother may be Devayani, who was the daughter of Sukaracharya Maharishi. So Sukaracharya Maharishi and Pururvas Maharishi, their progeny only Yavana. How can we say Greek? It is utter wrong thing. Okay. And Sri Ramayana and Mahabharata gave that Yavana not only came from Pururvas, it was produced, they were Kshatriyas. They born out of the Nandini cow. When to defeat the King Kausika, that is who will later become Vishwamitra, who want to capture that holy cow Nandini, to defeat his army. This holy cow produced some people, after which Saka, Yavana were there. So Yakana already there from this Pururvas progeny. Now Nandini, that cow also produced some Yavana as a Satriya to fight with the Kausika army. So this shows Mahabharata Vedavyasa mentioned the same way. Srimad Ramayanam in Balakanda mentioned in the same way. So both Itikasa mentioned. So that is a strong evidence that Yavana were Satriya only. And other reference for Yavana, Mahabharata, Pandu and Yavana fight with each other, and Arjuna also fought with. So definitely they are Satriya. The most important thing is there is Swayamvara of Draupadi. In that Arjuna did the arrow of the fist and he got married with Draupadi. In that Swayamvara, who are all the kings participated? King of Kalinga, Vanga and Pandya from Tamil Nadu. Such a southern king, he participated in the Draupadi Swayamvara and Panjala, very north. Poundra, Videha, Raja Ganaha. That means they are a group of kings. In that King Yavana also, King of Yavana participated. If he is not a native person of Bharata Varsha, Indian country, and he was not a Kshatriya, in that you see Karna, because he is a son of Charatar, he was not allowed to participate. But Yavana king were allowed to participate. So because he is a king and he ruled a part of India, so he is a Kshatriya, he was allowed to participate in the Swayamvara. If they are Greek, how they can allow it? So that itself shows Mahabharata totally disproved, debunked that Yavana are Greek. And Yavana and Krata were Satriya. And again, Anusasana Parva Mahabharata mentioned. The most important thing again, in the Sri Parva, in this sloka, the Sindhu and Sauvira kingdom is Jayatratha, who was defeated by Arjuna. That we know. Jayatratha, Sindhu Raja king, that story we know. Jayatratha married daughters of Kamboja and Yavana king. See, then Yavana king daughters were married by Jayatratha, means Yavana were Indian Kshatriyas only. Otherwise, how he would have married? So there is a marriage alliance between various kingdoms of Bharat with Yavana. So that also disproved this Yavana as Greek. And Vishnu Purana and many Purana mentioned Yavana lived in the western part of India. That I already explained. Srimad Ramayana, when Sugriva sent his army, monkey army, to search Sita in the northern direction, he mentioned north to Kiskinda is Yavana kingdom is there, not western part. If it is Greek, he would have mentioned west in the western part. He mentioned northern part, Yavana kingdom in the northern area. Sugriva to Sadavali. So definitely Yavana kingdom was situated in the northwestern part of India, close to within India at the northwestern part, not at Greek. That we can understand. And Mahabharatam Sava Parva, Nakula after meeting his maternal uncle Salya, Madra kingdom, but that was just beyond Sindhu river. And Madra kingdom close to Saraswati river. He mentioned Saraswati river. After that, Madra kingdom. And he subjugated Yavana and Pallava. Then Yavana were in the northwestern part. Bhishma Parva, northwestern part. Vana Parva in the western part. And in Santi Parva, Yavana Raja is present in the north. So it is definitely northwestern part based on Mahabharata. So this is Madra kingdom. This is Gandhara. This is Cambodia. And this is the Yavana. So it is within, this is Gandhara, just adjacent to Afghanistan, the Yavana kingdom is there, close to Sindhu river. So it is within Bharat only. So India only. This is the Madri kingdom. This is Gandhara. This is Cambodia. This is Yavana. This is Yavana. And then Janapadas of during Mahabharata, it is mentioned. And Silappadigaram, yeah. Tamil Kavya, one of the 5 major copies, the first major copy of Tamil literature. Ilango Odigal, the brother of Saran Singottuvan, only edited that, wrote that. In that, it's the 29th Adhyaya, 25th Sloka, it mentioned Vansul Yavanar Valanadu, Ven Perungal, தென்குமரி ஆண்ட செருவில் கயல் புரியான் மண்பதை காக்கும் கோமான். That is Saran Senguttuvan. He ruled not only South Tamil Nadu Kumari, when one Perungal, that is he captured Himalaya also, and also Yavana Valanadu. In Silapadigara, it mentioned that Saran Senguttuvan went to north to bring the stone from Himalaya to make the idol of Kannaki Mata. For that purpose only he went, and he allowed then all the rulers of northern Bharat to rule their land. So in that way he captured Yavana Valanadu also. So that means Yavana Valanadu, Yavana kingdom must be between Himalaya and southern Tamil Nadu, or adjacent in the northwestern part. Because Silapadigaram didn't mention that Charan Senguttuvan didn't went to any part outside India. Whole Silapadiyar. It mentions only his Himalayan expedition and his traveling within India. So because he ruled Yavana kingdom, that means that Yavana kingdom is within India. And in Mahabharata Sabha Parva, it was corroborated. This is corroborated by Mahabharata again. Sagadeva went a southern expedition. In that mentioned Atavim Cha Purim Ramyam Yavananam Puram Tata. That means Sagadeva captured Atavi. Atavi means forest. Puri, second vibhakti of Sanskrit. Puri. Puri means town. Ramyam. Ramyam means beautiful, delightful. So that the forests and towns were very delightful. Yavananam Puram. Puram means city. A neutral gender. Yavananam, sixth vibhakti. So the city of Yavana. That he captured. So in the southern direction, Sagadeva went, there was a settlement of Yavana there. So Yavana definitely not Greek. They are part and parcel of this land. They are Indians only. That we can understand from this, from Silapadikaram and Mahabharata. There is inscriptional evidence for that also. In Girnar, originally known as Girinagar, in Junagadh in Gujarat, and the language is Sanskrit. It is issued by Mahachatrapa Rudradaman. It directly mentioned King Ashoka. There was a Sudarshana lake, a great storage reservoir of water in Girnar area. It was constructed initially by the provincial governor of Pushyagupta, who worked under Chandragupta Maurya. And in the later period, King Ashoka wanted to repair it, further strengthen it. So he ordered his governor, who is that Yavana Raja. So during Ashoka period, there were Yavana Raja and Gujarat also, Yavana king, Tusaspa, who ruled that area on behalf of King Ashoka. So Yavana were there within India even during Ashoka rule and were in good position. That we came to understand from this Girnar inscription. And Nagarjuna Konda inscription. Epigraphy Indica, you can verify this. Here also it is epigraphy Indica is there. It is on the banks of river Krishna in Deccan. The language is Sanskrit and Prakriti, issued by Abhira Vasusena. Abhira kings were ruling in contemporary with Andhra Sadhavagana, who ruled Magadha kingdom. What it mentioned, the idol of God Ashtabhuja Swami, that is maybe Vishnu, was installed in Sattagiri by Sivasabha and Yona people of Samjayapuri. So Samjayapuri, where Yavana people lived, they also participated in the consecration of God Ashtabhuja Swami. So what is their religion? We can understand. Where they lived in the Deccan, we cannot say they are Greek. So Yavana people were present in Deccan and they worshipped God Ashtabhuja Swami. That is an important thing. Nagarjuna Konda inscription. Then Nasik inscription. It is Nasik is in Maharashtra. In the cave inscription, what it mentioned, Indra Agni Datta, who is the son of Dhammadeva, that is Dharmadeva, the Yavana from Dattamita. So in Deccan, Maharashtra also there are Yavana. Along with his son Dhammarikita, that is Dharmarikita, consecrated Satyagraha in order to honor our Buddha. So Nasik is in Maharashtra, hence Yavana were there in central India also. Further, the names of, previously I have shown their mode of worship. Ashtabhuja Swami they worship. Now the name Yavana is Dharma Deva Indra Aganidatta Dharma Rikita. Purana mentioned the Kala Yavana's father is Yavanesa or Yavaneswara. That I have already explained. So Panini, Astadhyayi, Laghu Kaumadi, Kasika, all Sanskrit grammar texts, Abhidhana Chintamani and Kaladasas, Malaviga Agnimitra, and Amarakosha, excellent Sanskrit lexicon written by Amarasimha, and many more texts mentioned that Yavana is Kshatriya of Indian origin only. So there is no doubt in it. I have narrated all the evidence, but maybe many things I have left. If youngsters they can find out, they can add. So these evidence narrated so far strongly and concretely and absolutely prove that Yavana were of Kshatriya of Indian origin, and it cannot denote any other people outside India, especially the Greek. Hence, the Western scholars' conjecture that 5 Yavana king mentioned in King Ashoka's inscriptions as Greek is completely wrong, and it is a biased view, and it was conjectured with ulterior damaging motive to damage India's history. So these Western scholars' base itself has no base at all. That we should understand. And one more thing I want to add in this, there is a damaging and harmful alteration. I have already shown how Mudra Rakshasa characters are mentioned, and Justin's words are mentioned, altered, and Aryabhatta name altered in the previous session. Now you can see how they are continuously doing that. In Mahabharata Sabha Parva, I have already Adavim, Purim, Ramyam, Yavananam, that I have explained. Sagadeva concord, Adavi means forest, Purim means city, Ramyam, delightful, beautiful, Yavananam Puram, so Yavana city. But how they changed? In 1938, Edgerton altered Atavim to Andakim. Andakim, see, Andakim. And in 2015, they altered Ramyam into Roma. What is their motive? You can understand. You can download the Gorakhpur edition, Kumbhakonam edition, and also Nag published in hard copy of Mahabharata. In that you find this sloka only. But in this text, which text I will show later, they altered Adavim into Andakim, Ramyam into Roma. Ramyam means delightful, beautiful. See, what is Adavim? It is a second vibhakti, feminine gender. Purim is second vibhakti, feminine gender. Andaki, if it is denotes Antioch, the Greek king, it is a masculine gender. Then the seven vibhakti Andaki, Ikarandaga, Hari Shabdaga, it should be Andakim only, not Andakim. So grammatically also they are not correct. And Ramya, because it's an adjective, this Puri and Adavi, because it is second vibhakti of feminine gender, it also should come in Ramya, second vibhakti of feminine gender. But Romaga is masculine gender, so second vibhakti, yes, Rama Sabdaga, it should come Romam or Roman in plural. So here also it is wrong, grammatically wrong. But in spite of that, they are carrying out. In 1938 and 2015, they are carrying out. What is their motive? Atavim is altered to Antioch, a Greek king name, Antiochus, maybe the Seleucus Nicodemus' son, grandson, to derive a Greek connection with Mahabharata. And Ramyam is altered to Romam to derive a Roman connection. And Yavana is translated into Greek. See, the name of a person, river or kingdom, nation, places, ocean, society, group of people should not be translated. It should be given as such. That is the dictum. But they are translating. How Yavana can be translated to Greek? I don't know. What is their motive? Because they want to push forward the date of Mahabharata war. Because it mentioned Antioch, the Greek king, and Roma, those lived 2000 years before only. So Mahabharata date should be only 2000 years old, not anterior to that. Or we can say Mahabharata is entirely a mythic story. That is their motive. So we are at this internet world, we can get a soft copy of Mahabharata download. Even Kumbakonam edition, Gorakhpur evidence we download, and there are books, textbook, hard copies are available. Even from our house, we can order that and we can verify the sloka in this 2015-20 years. Even during this period, if they can alter like that, this princess, they copied this like Ashoka edict in 1820 and published within 100 years. All persons involved are only English, European scholars, no Indian scholar. At that time, we cannot travel much also to verify whether that stone is actually exactly copied or they chiseled something and that to decipher to some other way. That we don't know because we don't have any access. So they can do whatever they want, they can alter. So based on that, we cannot accept this by Yavana king's name also. That also it is doubtful. So we should understand, we should think in that angle also. That is the thing I want to know. I want to stress. So who altered? It is Stadia Warrantiala 116. Yavana and Yavana in Indian literature. You can download it. I got downloaded. Helsinki 2015. Who published the Finnish Oriental Society from Finland? Who is the author, editor and co-editor? When it is published to 2015, this altered sloka Antakim Romam is there on the page 6. You can verify. You can download this Mahabharata text from Gorakhpur edition with Hindi translation is there. At the same time, you can download this also. You can compare yourself whether I am telling truth or not. You can compare and you can find out the truth. So this is the thing happening for Indian history and chronology that we should understand. Now coming to aftermath of this baseless conjecture, what happened after that? So based on that prejudiced conjectures, first William Jones and then this princess, King Chandragupta Maurya period is fixed at 321 BCE and King Ashoka of Maurya around 250 BCE. Based on that, 5 Yavana king means 5 Greek kings. So it became the seat anchor, especially Chandragupta Maurya's coronation at 321 BCE. Then, after fixing this, they fixed the coronation of King Ashoka based on Buddhist chronicles of Sri Lanka. That is Mahavamsa and its commentary on Deepavamsa. Based on that, they meant how? Because these texts, Mahavamsa, Deepavamsa, Cholavamsa, are Buddhist chronicles of Sri Lanka. In that, the king's chronology were given. Magadha king, especially because Ashoka is a Buddha, it narrates more about Ashoka. So it mentioned that King Chandragupta Maurya ruled for 24 years and his son Bindusara ruled for 28 years. And Ashoka became king of Magadha 218 years after Buddha Nirvana. These are all the Adhyaya Sloka number. Deepavamsa mentioned in the same way. So these are all the Sloka number and the Adhyaya number. So 24 years, 28 years, 218 years from the Nirvana of Buddha, Ashoka became king. Or from 321 BCE, this 52 years. After that, Ashoka became king. That is the thing we inferred from this Buddhist chronicles of Sri Lanka. So already they fixed 5 defective method, false method, prejudiced 321 BCE. So 24 years of Chandragupta Maurya rule. So in the year 297 BCE, Bindusara came to power and 28 years he ruled. So in the year 269 BCE, Ashoka became king. So 269 years BCE, Ashoka became king. So if you see the 5 Yavana kings period, they mentioned as Greek kings, it is around 250, 260 BC only. In that way, they say that it is correct. But it is, I have already shown it is totally wrong. And king coronation, Ashoka's coronation based on this conjecture is 269 BCE. And 218 years before that, Gautama Buddha attained Nirvana. So Gautama Buddha attained Nirvana in 487 BCE. Like that, they derived the date. So this date, Buddha Nirvana at 487 or 477 BCE, it is the base, one of the important base for fixation of Aryan invasion at 1500 BCE. How? That we have to see. With that, we will finish up. It is all again based on assumptions, prejudice only. This father of Aryan invasion theory, he was Friedrich Max Muller. That is definite thing. There are many assumptions in this. From Buddha Nirvana to Aryan invasion theory, they found out 6 assumptions. What are them? First thing is Gautama Buddha was against Veda and Yajna. Because since in Yajna, animals were put into fire and sacrificed, killed. It is entirely wrong. Buddha became Buddha only to give relief to the sorrows and sufferings of the fellow human beings. For that only he left his Rajya kingdom and to do tapas so that he can attain jnana and give correct remedy for the sufferings of the people and to spread it among the public so that people will live happy and they can attain nirvana. That is his motive, not to condemn Veda or Yajna. The remedy, what he revealed was ahimsa, mainly ahimsa and love and affection and to avoid greedy aspirations. What he mentioned, desire is the sole cause for all sorrow. That is the thing he mentioned. He is not at all uttered any word against Veda or Yajna. Here, the love of happy, ahimsa means he mainly wanted to avoid killing of animals for food, not anything to do with Yajna. That also we can, from Ashoka's edict, we can find out. And the second assumption is, during Yajna, a lot of animals were sacrificed. That is also seeded in our mind. So Yajna and Veda are Hindu religion. To seed an anti thing in our mind, they told that Buddha told like that. Yajna in many animals were sacrificed. It is not no base in that. Only for food, animals are killed massively, not during Yajna. That we should understand. Very rarely in Yajna, they made in the shape of animal shape from the grain flour and they put it into fire, not actual animals. So animals are sacrificed in some of the village temples in India. That too on certain occasions only. India is a pure vegetarian land only, not always, not in Yajna. In Yajna, not at all any animal is sacrificed. So our ancient rishis, jnanis, the Purusa, they lived in forests. And animals lived, coexisted adjacent to them. Because these jnanis loved that animal and that animal also more attached to rishis. Because we followed this one thing, that is the entire universe is our own kith and kin, Vasudhaiva Kudambam. How can we kill animals? We worship animals. Many of the animals are the Vakana of the God. That we should understand. So in the same way, this is entirely wrong thing, that during Yajna, a lot of animals. Actually, animals are killed for food mainly, not for Yajna. And Buddha didn't want to cut short that animal killing for food only. That we can see that in the Ashoka edict. And one more wrong thing is, Adi Shankara was against Buddhism. No. He is Shiva Avatara. He wants to stress Jnana Kanda of Veda only. That is the main purpose of his Avatara. And King Ashoka's rock edict, we can find actual fact in that. In the rock edict 1, 3, 4, 11, 1st and 2nd of Dauli and 1st Jauguda and 5th Delhi Topra, what Ashoka mentioned, especially in the 1st edict of Girnar, Kasi and other edicts, he mentioned that before in my palace, 100,000 animals were killed for food. In the kitchen for food. 100,000 animals per day killed for food. But hereafter I heard only 3 animals can be killed. 2 peacock, 1 deer. And deer should also not at regular. This is the thing he clearly mentioned. So he condemned only animal killing for food only. You can see all these edicts. And he stressed, he requested people should abstain from killing animals, at least on certain Tithi and Nakshatra. First 14, 15 Tithi, Punarvashu, Pushya Nakshatra, Chatur Masa, and an important auspicious things. He didn't mention anything about Veda and Yajna. If you go through whole edicts of inscriptions of Ashoka, he's a Buddhist king. And he mentioned Brahmins should be treated with respect. If he is against Veda and Yajna, why he asked the people to respect Brahmin. And he mentioned animals should be treated with affection. It is not for, it is for the entire public, not the people who conduct yajna. It is for the entire people. He has mentioned that animals should be treated with affection. So in the entire inscriptions, he didn't utter any word against Veda and yajna. So that we should understand. So Buddha is not against Veda and yajna, and there is no animal sacrifice in yajna. That we should understand. But it was seeded in our mind to become anti to our religion. That is the thing. And the third assumption is Gautama Buddha, because already they assumed that he preached against Veda Agna. Hence, the last part of Veda might be began to be revealed and proclaimed 100 years before preaching of Buddha. So Veda should be prior to him. Then only he can condemn now. So at least 100 years before, the last part of Veda started evolving. That is their assumption. So Buddha period they assumed at 500 BC. So the last part of Veda should be 600 BC, 500 to plus 100 years. Why, what basis they allotted 100 years, I don't know. There is no explanation for that also. And the fourth assumption is, actually, Friedrich Max Muller classified there is Vedic literature into 4 groups: Chandas, Mantra, and Brahmana and Sutra. There is no division like that. Actually, Veda are 4: Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva. Each Veda has 4 parts: Samkhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. We know that Samkhita and Brahmana, Aranyaka are Karma Kanda, and Upanishad are Jnana Kanda. We can know what is Samkhita. It is a poetic form to express and praise the glory of Almighty, to worship Him. And Brahmana details the rules and regulations of Yajna. Aranyaka, the life and Yajna conducted in forest. That is the thing. Upanishad is Atma Vichara, Atma Jnana. How Sishya get Atma Jnana? By asking questions to his Guru. That is Upanishad. For this, to stress this Jnana Kanda only, Adi Shankara came. So the style and way of expression definitely vary from this. It does not denote the period. Even Rigveda is first, that is also not correct. But the substance of the revelation, because all these Veda exist before Veda Vyasa. Veda Vyasa only segregate and separate and classify it. That's why he is known as Veda Vyasa. Vyasa means separation. Before that, it exists. So it is also wrong assumption that Rigveda is first. It is all because of Max Muller's idea. So dividing Vedic literature into these 4 types, there is no right, no logic justification. But Friedrich Max Muller did it. Chandas, Mantra, Brahmana, and Sutra. You can read this classification and their period. A History of Ancient Sanskrit Literature, Max Muller, 2nd edition, in the page 244, these pages. It is published in London, Edinburgh, and Paris in the year 1860, 1859 also. This was exactly quoted by the great scholars Navaratna Rajaram and David Frawley in the Vedic Aryans and Origins of Civilization. And also M.A. Gate is a great scholar from Maharashtra. He gave a lecture on Rig Veda. In the year 1926, it was published. So it is all the idea of Max Muller, division of this Veda wrongly into this form. There is no form like that exists. So he only divided that. Based on that, he go further assumption. That is from Chanda to Mandra, Mandra to Brahmana, Brahmana to Sutra. It needs 200 years to transfer. Why 200 years? It may be 50 years. It may be 1000 years. No, I will not give explanation because I am Friedrich Maxwell. You accept it. That is the thing. So first revelation of last part of Veda, that is Sudra, began in 600 BC. Already I have seen. That is 100 years before Buddha preaching. And Brahmana 600 plus 200, 800. Mandra 1000. Chandas 1200. So the earliest part of Veda was first revealed in 1200 BC. They derived. And the sixth assumption is, because Aryan came from Central Asia, no, they are nomadic people, illiterate. So suddenly they cannot evolve all this Veda. That much knowledge structure is there. Literature. So it requires 300 years. Again assumed 300 years. Why 300 years? Why not 3000 years? Why not 100 years? That's no explanation. So Frederick Max Muller assumed 300 years. So 1200 plus 300, 1500 years. So the Aryan invasion, Aryan people came to India in their 1500 BCE. There is not even a single literature, archaeological, epigraphical, or numismatic, or any other evidence for this. It is simple guesswork, assumption, alleged work, presumption, conjecture, everything is like that. But what is the worst thing is, in spite of all these faults and defects and lie, this became the authentic history of India. And we taught this falsehood and lies to our students as the true history in universities, colleges, and schools. Aditya ji told that it is Indians' responsibility to change it, either the government or the people. But still we are following. This is the worst part of entire system and life of India at present. You should feel for that. What are all the references? Aryan invasion, Vara Pandey, Gates lecture I have already given. This is Navaratna Esarara, Jaram, David Frawley, that book I got on. The Myth of Aryan Invasion, David Frawley, that is Vamavedeva Sastri. And Frederick Max Muller's text, A History of Ancient Sanskrit Literature. In these pages I have quoted. And biographies of words and home of Aryans. In that also he explained. And the Life and Letters of Frederick Max Muller, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And also many of Frederick Max Muller's lectures. See, in his Life and Letters in the Volume 1, he, in the page 467, Max Muller mentioned Max Muller was the president of Aryan section. So that much is the contribution, as he is rightly called as father of Aryan invasion theory. And there is another reason for the date 1500 BC. That was James User chronology. James User was an archbishop of Armagh Church of Ireland and primate of all Ireland between 1625 to 1656. And he declared in the year 1650s or 52, 53 that the earth was created at 6 p.m. There is no sun, there is no moon. How day and time were calculated, I don't know. But he mentioned that earth was created at 6 p.m. on 22nd October, exact date, time. Exactly 6 p.m., not 601 or 559. So 22nd October 4004 BCE. So therefore, Ice Age and Great Deluge, we ought to allow at least 2000 years. So human history should be limited within 2000 BCE, because Ice Age 2000 years, the Great Deluge. So 4004 minus 2000, it should be within 2000 BCE only. We cannot go before that. So hence Aryan invasion should be fixed at 1500 BCE. Why this 500 years lapse? Because we have to allot at least 500 years for Aryan stay at Central Asia. In that way also they fixed 1500. But this user chronology become unscientific, outdated, because of the scientific discoveries that many fossils on Earth, which have more than lakhs and lakhs of years of antiquity, so it is totally disproved unscientific, become unscientific. But in 1800 to 1900, users chronology, users words were believed by Frederick Max Muller and all people as a scientific fact. Why they believed James User? He is not a scientist because he is not a scientist, or because of great researcher. Because he was an archbishop of Ireland. That is the only qualification. They cannot overthrow his words. They should accept and obey his words because he is the archbishop of Ireland. On that capacity, he mentioned, because they obeyed this archbishop, they accepted that, and based on that, they derived the chronology of India. So this archbishop ruled their mind than their scientific pursuit. That we should understand. So I have dealt part 1, the wrong conjecture and assumption of Chandragupta Maurya coronation at 321 BCE. Part 2, I dealt the worthlessness of Greek classical literature in India, including Macassane's India, which were narrating falsehood and lies on India. And part 3, I dealt with the wrong and unscientific decipherment of Ashoka's edict, and it paves way to fix Gautama Buddha date wrongly at 500 BC, around 500 BCE. And this year is conjectured, lead to conjecture and implausible Aryan invasion date at 1500 BCE. That I explained. In the part 4, please allow me to deal with the motive, methods adapted, and the persons who played the unscholarly role in creating and spreading the entirely baseless, false, and unscientific Aryan invasion theory without even a single evidence to support it. So with that, I may conclude this series of lecture. So I am Dr. M.L. Raja, Director Yavanas. These are all my contact numbers. I am a historian, archaeologist, epigraphist. Initially, I was an ophthalmologist as a doctor. These are all my contact numbers. And I express my Nandri, Dhanyavadaka, and thanks to Aditya ji and my beloved team of Sattology, volunteers of Sattology, and also the eminent professors, scholars, and students who are listening my lecture from various universities of United States of America. I once again thank one and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So one of the things, Dr. Raja, I'd like to add is the Yavana, definition of Yavana. So Yavana, Mlecha, and Arya, they're recognized by their qualities and their activities, not by a race, because the race theory, which mostly, these people, they come up with, which is mostly not correct. How can you classify? Because the gene pool is the same. Like you correctly said, they're coming from the same source, Vashishta Muni and Vishwamitra Muni, and they created them. And also there is a mention of Yavana across from Valkilya, like in the west. There is a reference of Yavana on Turkayamas. It is said that in the eastern direction of Turkayamas is Sanskrit word used, which is called Turkey today. Again, the same is been referred to the same name from many, many years, thousands of years. To the west also they refer to as Yavana by the qualities, not by the race. So Yavana or Malecha can be within India, outside India also, because of the qualities. Like the Barbar Jati, Barbar is today.
Barbara, yes, Barbara is outcasted Kshatriyas of Indian origin. Barbara, Pallava, and Yavana, Saka, all born from Milecha. Milecha is a progeny of Anu king. Like that, they are all.
Those are the lineage from Prajapatis, like coming down from there. But if you look at the modern names also, North Africans are in the local language known as Berber. They proudly call them the Berber. And the Berber tribes, they call themselves a Berber. And many of the areas in the west, like the Maharaj Bhagadat was called the king of Yavana. And he was
Bhagadat is a son of Naraka.
Yeah,
there will be two Bhagadat also there.
Why can't there can be many Bhagata, but
may be there because one name is for many kings there are in India.
Even today we have many people named Krishna. Doesn't mean that all of them are Krishna. We know that. But the Bhagadat mentioned, the name mentioned is by Nakul and by Sadev, and also he was an alliance of Jarasan. So he's considered both on the Pragjotishpur area as well as on the west of Kakai Desh also, and south of Turkayamas. So both, so not just in India. I mean, I know from what point you were saying that the Max Muller referred to them as, use them as a proof of the Aryan invasion theory. That's why you said it is wrong. Yavana were in India also. So yeah, very good presentation, Dr. Raja, as usual. And we'll again come up with another topic shortly. Okay. Namaste and thank you all for joining the show. Please comment on the video and let us know your feedback. Namaste.